All right, this video is the shelf life video for foods and for food chemistry. Um, Shelf life is one of the topics that IB really does expect you to know quite a bit about. So I hope this isn't too long, but we will get through all of this. This is about, I think the third section in your reading. So starting on page 477, and it goes all the way through to actually page 481. So make sure you've read those sections. Now, shelf life is considered just the definition of it is that when the food no longer maintains the expected quality desired by the consumer, and that can be because of changes in flavor, smell, texture, and appearance, or because of spoilage. Now, shelf life is quantified different ways in different parts of the world, and if you've traveled at all, maybe you know that. But the thing that shelf life is, one of the things that people mistakenly write a lot on IB exams is that the shelf life after the shelf life is expired, the food is dangerous or unhealthy or bad. And it isn't always that way. It could be safe to consume, but the optimal quality that the consumer would expect isn't there. It doesn't mean that the food is always safe, however, so you have to be really careful with shelf life. Shelf life just means that it's not got the same expectation that you originally should have had when you bought it. Now, once the shelf life is expired and food does start to spoil, okay, so even if it would have been safe to consume maybe a day or two after the shelf life, eventually the food is going to spoil. And so there are two ways that food can spoil. One of them is what we call autolysis, which is it breaks up on its own, or microbial, something helps break down the food. And microbial would be like enzymes or nutrients released from the cells, and then the microorganisms feed on those and multiply, and then it keeps going. Now, what can affect shelf life? Water content and any change in the water content. Not only will it affect the shelf life, but it can affect how the texture looks, which is why the shelf life would be expired. Could lead to a loss of nutrients, and it could increase the rate of any enzymatic browning. We'll talk about that later. Or hydrolytic rancidity. So again, remember what hydrolytic rancidity is when those fatty acids separate from that glycerol molecule. Dried food can become vulnerable to spoilage if it does take on moisture. So if you've seen like raisins, dried raisins, the reason that they can last so long is because they don't have any water in them to actually lead to spoiling, because nothing can feed on it if there's no water. Now, another one that affects other factors affecting shelf life, pH, can affect the activity of some enzymes or microorganisms. pH can also help preserve food. So if you think of things that are pickled, pickles, for example, or any peppers, generally those are canned in vinegar. If you remember, vinegar is acetic acid or ethanoic acid. That functions as a really good preservative. So some pHs can help preserve food, others can help increase the rate of spoilage. Light is another reason food can go bad or shelf life can be lessened, because it initiates any kind of oxidation of fats and oils, which we've discussed in the previous videos, which leads to rancidity. It can cause the natural color of food to fade. Temperature. Any increase in temperature can increase the rate of spoilage. That's why you usually refrigerate or even freeze your foods. It can also affect water content and the texture. And above 60 degrees Celsius, enzymes are denatured when the secondary and tertiary structures of the protein are disrupted. Now, if you don't remember what secondary structures are, that's the way that they fold, and the tertiary is the way that they either form pleated sheets or helixes. So when those structures are disrupted, then the enzymes are going to start causing breakdown. Now, how can we keep our food from spoiling or exceeding the shelf life? Well, that's what we use preservation and processing for. So what this will do is using a preservative or some other kind of food processing technique will increase the food's shelf life beyond what it normally would have been. It can do so by destroying or inactivating any bacteria or enzymes, microorganisms that are involved in spoiling. Adding salt, sugar, or even smoking food. So if you think about like pickles again, they're very salty because that helps maintain the shelf life. Smoking, like smoking meat, turkey will help again reduce water content, drying out the food. Pickling in vinegar reduces pH, lowering pH makes it more acidic, and that acidic pH is too difficult for microorganisms to survive. Another way is by adding preservatives. So these are non-traditional methods, maybe. This is very strictly regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. Sorbic acid is often used as an additive because it reduces mold growth and bacteria growth, especially in cheeses and breads. Benzoic acid and propanoic acid are added to fruit juices and also carbonated drinks to reduce microorganism growth in those fruit juices. Sodium and potassium nitrite are added to things like bacon because they help cure the meat and they fix the color of that meat product. And then sulfur dioxide and sodium bicarbonate delay browning. So if you can think of an example of, like, say, a package of ground beef, when you buy it from the store, it's red. And then if you let it sit in the fridge too long, it will start turning brown, and that usually indicates that it's not going to be the best for you to eat it. Now, antioxidants can be naturally occurring or synthetically made. So, but what the purpose of them is to delay or slow the onset of oxidation. Remember, again, oxidation breaks down food, reduces shelf life. So we're trying to extend the shelf life. The naturally occurring antioxidants that can be used are vitamin E. And vitamin E is a really good one because it is fat soluble and it's found in all those things that you see there: nuts, seeds, whole grains, leafy vegetables, canola oil, etc. Vitamin C is another naturally occurring antioxidant found in your citrus fruits, but also in things maybe that you don't think of as commonly of having vitamin C, like broccoli or strawberries. Beta carotene is found in carrots. It's giving it that orangish color. Squash, etc., sweet potatoes. Okay. Selenium is found in fish and eggs, and that helps, again, reduce the rate of oxidation in those foods. And all of those that are mentioned are naturally occurring. Now, synthetic antioxidants are those that we have added to food. They're often phenols. Remember, a phenol is a benzene ring with an OH group. And they have a tertiary butyl group. So tertiary butyl means that it's a carbon, a 4-carbon group, but it's attached in sort of a T shape. Basically, what a synthetic antioxidant is going to do is put itself on the front line for those free radicals. The free radicals are what's going to cause those double bonds in the food to break and therefore break down. So the antioxidants are going to use the free radicals and they're going to catch them and basically react with them instead of the food. Now, traditional food antioxidants. Carotenoids are compounds that have distinctive structure because they have alternating single and double bonds. We call those carbon conjugate bonds, or carbon-carbon conjugate bonds, when they alternate single then double, then single then double. And that's what gives foods their reddish orange colors, like tomatoes and carrots have. Flavonoids are another example, and that's polyphenolic compounds. So again, remember, phenol is a benzene ring with an OH group on it. So there's many of those, and they're found in citrus fruits, green tea, etc. Dark chocolate. Now, what are antioxidants, the benefits and disadvantages to using them? Well, advantages. Vitamin C is not only an antioxidant, but it's also good for you. It helps produce hormones and collagen. Vitamin C, along with E and carotenoids, reduce risk of cancer and heart disease. And beta carotene is used as an additive in margarine to give it a really nice yellow color so it looks a little like butter. But the disadvantages is that sometimes people will assume that because something is synthetic and added to the food, it's probably less safe. Natural antioxidants can add aftertaste to food, and sometimes they're even less effective than synthetic. So people have this negative connotation about things that are synthetically added to foods, and not in all cases is that always a bad thing. But they do have to be regulated by the government, and so that's difficult to get things added to our food supply. It's difficult to monitor, especially when we're importing foods from other countries. So we may have a standard here in the United States, or Europe may have a standard, but if there are third world countries that we're importing food from, or countries that have different kinds of food practices, that might be difficult for us to monitor and get the same food quality that we would have if it was produced here. And that's where we'll leave off the video for shelf life.